恭敬大德圣情，为此法会，及一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生，脱死离苦得乐，速证无生。Build the Shankar with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings. Please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to live suffering and attain peace and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sananto suchetoye alahati sanmyao sanputo chem. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it, and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Namo, quelling disasters, slanting life, Medicine Master Buddha. 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 Medicine Master does come one. 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 Oh my, excuse me. So sorry. Can you be hearing a lot of my coughing today? So I apologize in advance. Okay, welcome back. So sorry, last week was I was on the way back from Singapore last week, so I wasn't able to hold the lecture. Okay, where are we today? Okay, let us do a recap. This is the part of the sutra which we are on, and this sutra, okay, I'll put my palms together and recite. Moreover, if a person who suddenly has nightmares, sees ill omens, notices strange birds flocking together, or perceives many uncanny events in his dwelling, can worship and make offerings of many fine things to that world-honored one, Medicine Master Vaidurya like Tathagata, then the nightmares, ill omens, and inauspicious things will disappear and will no longer trouble him. Okay, so we spent a bit of time, a few lectures, looking at the causes of nightmares and dreams and how do you get free of them. Excuse me. And today, I know this is a popular topic because sometimes I get questions on this, not that I know how to answer, but We are on ill omens and inauspicious things. Okay. Now, last week we went through this. Shufu, when I say Shufu, it means my Shufu, the Venerable Master Xuanhua. He talked about two kinds of deluded false views. And in other words, these are false views. These are false views arising from individual karma. That means karma specific to you only. But a second category is karma that's shared by people. So, for example, if you are in a village and the village gets overrun by bandits, everyone in the village shares the same fate. Or you get a natural disaster. So you can have within a country, a area, or a village, everyone has specific karma. Their karma are all different faces, or different personalities, different names. But they will have to undergo either misfortune or say if they have a good harvest, they share that equally. Okay, so that's what the second category is. All right. So let me see. Let me choose the slides. And as usual, because there are one or two new people with us, whenever you have a question, you can just unmute your microphone or type it into the chat box. I like questions because questions make the Dharma come alive. And also one thing I'm very happy, my cousin has finally joined us back. So I have my cousin and my auntie with us today. I know there's also Dr. Ho and Leven, their husband, wife, and then Leven's mom is also here. So this very good family affair. So my question to the rest of you all is, where are your family members? Okay, today someone in my class was supposed to bring their brother, but the brother, I was told that the brother became shy at the last minute and didn't want to attend. Okay, now, so okay, let me see. I'm just going to go through past these slides in searching for the slides that is for today. Okay, all right, I found it. So this is on shared karma or collective karma. All right, and this part is about inauspicious omens. So this is when, say, there's a solar happening or a comet in the sky, and all those people who can see it or will be affected by it, they all have a certain shared or collective karma in relation to the inauspicious sign. Okay, now we're going to go through a few of this, and some of which may seem quite common. All right, so it doesn't mean that every thing that we discuss today, if you see it tomorrow or next year, and it's for sure that it's an inauspicious sign. Okay, you can't say that. Why? Because there's the appearance, but there's also the cause and effect behind it. And there's also wisdom that's needed in order to understand what's actually going on. Okay, so don't take this as definitive. Like if you see it, it means that something bad is going to happen. All right, and go and tell everyone. Okay, so we have to use wisdom because we don't know. And at our level, we don't know. All right. Okay. So next two slides are omens associated with the moon. Okay, number one is a halo. This refers to an ominous mass of dark vapor around the moon. Just looking at it makes one feel uneasy. And then it's not for sure that all of us are able to see this kind of omens as well. If we see it, whether you recognize it. So Shufu says, as a saying, if there's a halo around the moon, there will be wind. And if there's moisture in the foundation of a house, there will be rain. Oh my. This lunar halo appears watery, although it may not really be water. It indicates there will soon be a strong wind. Moisture in the foundation of a house indicates that rain is coming. An Emperor Gao of the Han Dynasty was besieged by the Xiongnu tribe, or otherwise known as the Hans. A halo of 7 circles was seen around the moon, and the emperor himself found himself in peril and barely escaped with his life. Okay, so that's a halo around the moon, or even 7 halos. Okay, what's next? A haze. Shifu says this refers to a murky haze, and it's not clouds. All right, you go up and you see the moon, and there's clouds. That's not it. Covering the moon. Number 3 is a girdle ornament. Okay, don't ask me. All right, I'm just sharing what Shufu has taught. Says this refers to an evil mist encircling the moon like girdle ornament worn by a woman. And number 4, an incomplete jade ring. This refers to an evil mist again encircling half of the moon. So Shufu says, in general, anything surrounding the sun or the moon is a bad omen. The common false views are such that people of one country who create bad karma or unwholesome karma can see these signs, while those of the other country who create good karma don't see them, although the two countries are right next to each other. The people see different things. Okay, so this is a sign, or you could say that these inauspicious omens arise from the unwholesome karma of living beings. All right, okay, that's an easier way to understand. Okay, now we look at comets and meteors. I know in the news, there's this particular meteor that is, I don't think it's coming towards Earth, but I think it's coming towards us and is doing strange things that people say it could be an alien. It's not a natural, natural meteor or object traveling. Anyway, coming back to our topic, in comet, in China, it's called a broom star because it shoots out sparks and leaves a long tail of light. I'm going to drink some water, excuse me. And it says, during the reign of the first emperor of the Qin dynasty, comets appeared frequently, and so the common people suffered great misery. And then a comet in opposition, and then also shoots out sparks, but intermittently and without leaving a trail of light. So it doesn't have a tail. And then a shooting star. Okay, this is a meteor which appears to fly across the sky, passing overhead from one side to the other. It is also known as a renegade star. Now, shooting stars, people think is good, right? When you see a shooting star, you say, "Oh, make a wish, make a wish." But before you can make a wish, the shooting star disappears. It's usually very brief. And number 4 is a fireball. This kind of meteor gives off showers of light and it is very bright. So now with everyone having handphones and dash cams in their cars, we are seeing more of this happening. Sometimes at night, when there's a fireball, it lights up the whole sky. My show says when it enters the Earth atmosphere, meteor rocks fall from the skies as numerous as raindrops. The above omens of comets and meteors are indications of unusual calamities. All right. All right. Number 3, inauspicious omens associated with the sun. And they say these are all atmospheric conditions. Then the first one is to carry on the back. This is an evil vapor above the sun. And number 2 are ears. This is mist on each side of the sun. That means on the left and right. So it looks as if the sun has ears. And then morning and evening rainbows. Shifu says Hong is a classical pronunciation, or some people call it what, Gang. I don't know how you pronounce that. And it refers to the rainbows commonly seen at dawn. Those seen at dusk are called Ni. Sometimes Hong is considered male and Ni is female. So usually rainbows are reflections of light in the water crystals, water vapor in under sunlight. So like if you water your plants in the garden and you spray the water and there's sunlight, you can create your own rainbow. Okay, but these rainbows in during dawn and dusk when there's no strong sunlight, so it's a bit more unusual. Okay, she will say such rainbows are classified as yin or yang, and they are abnormal phenomena. Ordinary rainbows that appear after a rainfall are not evil. Okay, there you go. Because after a rain, usually there's less clouds and then the sun is able to shine through, and then there's still water vapor in the air. But it says, but Hong and Ni, which are rather dark, are portents of calamities. They may seem colorful and pretty, but they carry a little energy. People who know how to look will know at a glance that these are omens of misfortune. She says there are many, many varieties of inauspicious omens. For example, the appearance of two suns indicates that a great change is about to occur in the country. So you might be wondering, is there such a thing, two suns? This is not science fiction. Normally you see two suns in movies. But then, as there's a saying, the sky cannot hold two suns, the people cannot serve two kings. Sometimes it's not literally two suns, it's a reflection. And she will say, if there are two kings or two presidents, one of them may murder the other. There may also be two moons in the sky. Two suns or two moons is an inauspicious portent for the country. So if you think this is wild or a bit far out, she will say sometimes trees may talk, just like Lord of the Rings. What are they called? The ants, right? ENTS, the ants. She says you may hear a voice coming from the tree, but you can't see anyone there. These uncanny events are all inauspicious. Other calamities include typhoons, storms, and so forth. Oh, excuse me. Okay, now, all right. Now, this is from the Surangama Sutra. Also, the same topic, false views due to the collective karma of beings. Here, this is also Shufu's commentary. He says, the false view of collecting seeing is all the citizens of a country seeing the inauspicious signs. They see two suns, two moons, comets, shooting stars, rainbows, and secondary rainbows. I think that's double rainbow. And all kinds of inauspicious astrological signs. That means the planets. In China, in the past, every time there was a shift in dynastic rule, that means a new emperor, not just new emperor, new dynasty, yeah, because there could be a new emperor but same dynasty. Every time the dynasty, emperor change. Okay, every time there's a change in the ruling, these kinds of inauspicious things always appeared. Long ago in China, an emperor who saw some inauspicious signs asked Qi Tianchen, an astrologer, what their meaning was. Okay, so the astrologer said that it pointed to the death of the king. That means it foretold that the king was going to die. But he had a way. Oh my, excuse me. Let me drink some water. But the astrologer had a way, like most astrologers, he said that you won't die if the people suffer instead. Oh no, the prime minister were to suffer instead. And then the emperor, being a righteous emperor, said, no, that won't be, he can't allow that. He said, if I'm meant to die, how can I put it off on the prime minister? The prime minister looks after important matters in the country, so it won't do for him to die. So the astrologer had another way out. He said, well, if you don't want the prime minister to die, you can have the people die in his place. It can be turned onto the populace at large. Okay, so more people will die. So the emperor countered back. He says, the people are the foundation of the state. If the people were to die, what meaning would my imperial reign have? That means what kind of a king would he be? Or what kind of emperor would he be? So say that's also impermissible. Okay, I saw that as permissible. No, impermissible, not allowed. So he didn't want to do that either. So the astrologer said, well, you can transfer the calamity to the year. And this year, the people will starve to death. Well, same thing, right? Just same end result, just different means. So the emperor disagreed to that as well. He said, I don't want to starve the people. It's meaningless to be that kind of emperor. So then the astrologer bowed to the emperor. Well, I mean, he's the emperor. You have to bow anyway. Says, you are truly a just emperor. With so much good in your heart, I am certain you will not die. In other words, if you have virtue, you are able to even alter your luck or the course of nature in the world. So now we move on to a slightly different section. It says there has been an evil omen, but it can change and become auspicious. So, oh wait, no, sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. So this is the astrologer saying it. That means things are not fixed. Things are changing. Conditions are always changing. And karma is based on conditions. All right. So, and the next day, the evil omen disappeared. So Shufu says, it is clear from this incident that although evil omens manifest, the evil can be transformed into something lucky. It all lies in a single thought of people's minds. If in a single thought you change, then what might have been evil can turn into something auspicious. The practice of lighting incense and reciting the Buddha's name before something is about to happen is another method for bringing about a change. Calamities and blessings lie in a single thought to change. All right, so that's very, very important. So whenever the next time you see something unusual in the sky, around the sun, the moon, shooting star or whatever, okay, you know what to do. So Shufu says, Lao Shi said, if the mind brings forth good, then good affects what has not yet happened and turns it into something auspicious. But, okay, if the mind brings forth evil, that evil affects what has not yet happened and turns it into something horrendous. In this connection, there are auspicious spirits and evil spirits. You should not think that all spirits are good. Okay. So when it comes to evil spirits, Shuva says the business of evil spirits is repayment in kind. They punish whoever does something wrong. Good spirits protect people who do good, and each spirit has its responsibilities. So the changing of a single thought is extremely important. The fact that the emperor could take responsibility for his own death and not have the prime minister or the people standing for him will cause the year to be a bad one, allowed him to encounter the evil and turn it into good. So these matters are all subject to change. They are certainly not fixed. Okay, if we have time today, in my slides, I have a very interesting story about why people follow the fasting days. There are two versions of why people observe the 8 precepts or the Bodhisattva precepts. On certain days, you don't eat dinner and you're supposed to meditate. There are two variations. One variation is that the sons of the 4 heavenly kings, each heavenly king has 999 sons, and the sons will come down on certain days and will get a report from the local spirits on your behavior. Okay, when I say your behavior, that means every single person's behavior is recorded down. Everything that you do, the spirits know. All right, so they record down, and you can't escape. So the princes of the 4 heavenly kings come down on certain days, and then the 4 heavenly kings themselves come down on certain days, and then Lord Chakra himself comes down on certain days. And so people with their eyes open, or people who study Buddhism, they say, oh, on these days you have to observe, do good things. So that's why there's a tradition on the 1st and 15th people are vegetarians. Especially in Taoism, they try to cheat the system. So on the other days, they can do whatever they want. But I have a very interesting story by Nagarjuna Bodhisattva himself on another version of what happens. Okay, let's see if we have time. Okay, now in the Surangama Sutra, it says, the Surangama Mantra can also suppress all evil stars which may appear in any of the directions and transform themselves in uncanny ways. Calamities and obstructions will not arise. People will not die accidentally or unexpectedly, nor will they be bound by fetters, how do you pronounce like kangis? Or I think those are like things that shackle you, or locks. Day and night they will be at peace, and no evil dreams will disturb their sleep. Now, I just remembered a story of Guan Yin. Shufu related this. He said there was once when there was a meteor or comet that was heading towards Earth, and suddenly it changed direction. It went into a different direction, and it astounded the who are the people who study all these astronomers? No, I don't. Okay, you know those people who keep track of all this. They were surprised because that is not normal behavior for uh, uh, an an object like that. So Shufu said what happened was Guan Yin just like the just swatted away the ping pong ball, like swatted away the comet like it was a ping pong ball. Just just change its direction just like that. That's what Shufu said. Okay, anyway, coming back. In the commentary, Shufu says this passage tells how they will not have the difficulty of evil dreams either. It also can suppress all evil stars. The Surangama Mantra can control the influence of ill omened stars. This is just like a person of genuine wisdom ruling a country in such a way that there are no rebels. All the bad people reform and all matters are conducted with ease. When one person endowed with virtue in the way is the leader, an entire country of people of lesser endowment will willingly follow. They will heed his wisdom, not just for countries, but for companies as well. When you get someone who's able, who have virtue and they can make good decisions that benefit everyone, it benefits the whole company. Here, the mantra is analogous to the virtuous leader. It can control all inauspicious events. The evil stars represent unlucky affairs. These bad stars may appear in any other directions and transform themselves in uncanny ways, and they can bring about terrible, cruel disasters. Okay, now we move on to a different section of accidental deaths, which is inauspicious because why? They're untimely. And unlucky deaths such as fatal auto accidents or airplane crashes or drowning at sea, or you get caught in a fire and you die. The passage refers to anything that causes people to die when they don't want to, when they aren't prepared. Most people aren't prepared for any kind of death, but sudden death is a whole different thing. So Shufu says unexpected death refers to the death of children or any death before one is 30 years old because one has not lived out one's proper lifespan. Nor will they be bound by fetters. This is the sutra section. Day and night they will be at peace and no evil dreams will disturb your sleep. So Shufu says in this case, no ghosts will come to bully you when you sleep. Okay, now moving on. Oh, at this moment, at this point, does anyone want to bring up anything or have any questions? It gives me a chance to drink some water. Anyone? Okay, no? All right. Now, coming back to the Surangama Sutra, the Buddha is speaking now. He says, Ananda, this Saha world has 84,000 changeable and disastrous evil stars. So Shufu just gave us maybe few examples. But according to the Buddha, our world, this Saha world, 84,000, that means unlimited. When you see the word 84,000, it means in Indian language at that time, it means uncountable. Yeah, that means numerous, more than enough. 28 great evil stars are the leaders, and of these, 8 great evil stars are the rulers. They take various shapes, and when they appear in the world, they bring disaster and weird happenings upon living beings. But they will all be eradicated whenever there is the mantra. The boundaries will be secured for 12 yojanas around, and no evil calamity or misfortune will ever enter in. So Shufu says, there are uncountably many evil stars connected with this world we live in. Why is that? Well, because we have all kinds of karma. All right. It says, although these 28 are evil, they can also be good. In China, 28 constellations which rule the 4 directions are spoken of, with 7 constellations in each direction. And in Chinese astrology, these constellations rule all divisions of time, even down to the days and hours. One cycle takes 28 days, the typical lunar month. If a person is good, then the evil stars change to good ones. If the people of a certain place are evil, however, then even the good stars can change to evil ones. So it's a reflection of your karma, of your conduct. So this is very important. It's not that the stars are inherently evil or good, it's that they respond to the influence of karmic retribution and manifest in good or evil ways. Here they are referred to as evil to show that the Surangama Mantra can dissolve all calamities and difficulties. Thus, the sutra takes the position at this point that all the stars are evil, that they are all inauspicious. Why? Because a lot of people, only when they encounter problems, then they start reciting the mantras. Okay, but people who understand, they recite the mantra all the time. You don't have to wait for the efficacy, to need the efficacy of the mantra to recite the mantra. And Shifu says, if the stars are inauspicious and you as a person don't have any great good roots or any virtuous conduct to your benefit, then of course the whole situation becomes even more inauspicious. But if you can recite the Surangama mantra, then even inauspicious events can change to auspicious ones. Okay, now there's a word here called great roots. Okay, what are great good roots? Good roots is a Mahayana term. You don't find it in the Pali canon. And good roots means, let me see if I can, hold on, let me see if I can find my presentation. Hold on. What is good roots? Okay. Good roots refers to your accumulation of meritorious deeds. So when you create merit and you continue creating merit and you create a lot of merit, you have good roots. But if you continue creating more and more merit over lifetimes, all these accumulated good roots is what Shofu calls great good roots. Great good roots are what's needed to walk the Bodhisattva path, to become a Buddha. So if you look at the 3 types of good roots, you will see number 1, absence of desire, which is renunciation. Number 2, absence of hatred, which is loving kindness and compassion. And if you look at number 1 and number 2, and you know what the Noble Eightfold Path is, you will realize that number 1 and number 2 falls under right intention. So with right intention, you create merit. And if there's a sutra that talks about the 4 kinds of karma, there's bright karma, which is wholesome karma. There's dark karma, which is unwholesome karma. That means things that make you unhappy. Then there's mixed karma. But the most interesting is number 4, which is neither bright nor dark karma. Why is it called that? It's because although it is still karma, it is still conditioned, it is the kind of karma that leads towards the ending of karma. That means it leads to the end of suffering, of overcoming birth and death. So to be able to create that kind of karma, you need number 1 and number 2. Okay, that means whenever you do something good, in your heart, you must have thoughts of renunciation, which is to lessen your desires. Okay. Number 2, which is why it's always associated with generosity in giving, but it doesn't have to be. Okay. Number 2, in your heart, you must have loving kindness. That means you must be a friend to yourself and you must wish for the happiness of others. And number 3 is compassion. That means when you do things, you're always thinking about how to reduce the sufferings of others. And then because this is Mahayana, when you accumulate good roots, it also leads to the absence of delusion, which is wisdom. And how do you do that? Well, all of you are doing that right now, listening to the sutra. When you read the sutras and the commentaries, you are creating good roots. Okay, so now you know what good roots are. Okay, the Sanskrit term is kusala mula. All right, it's actually good a Sanskrit term. All right. Okay. Now coming back to our slide from before. Okay, what are the 28 signs, inauspicious signs? Well, I'm sorry for the lack of clarity. This is what I have. I don't even know why it starts on the Thursday, but that's just how it is. So what are these? Okay, out of the 28, there are 8 great evil stars which are the rulers. So Jupiter, Mars, Saturn, no, not Satan, sorry, Saturn, Venus, Mercury, and then Rahu. In Indian astrology, Rahu, and then Ketu, which is in the south, and then comets. These are known as the 8 great evil stars. But now we know they're not really evil. It just depends on the individual. Okay. And as these planets, if anyone has had their astrological chart taken, these planets will move around and they reflect your karmic path that you have created for yourself. If you don't do anything and you just follow after habits, then they can be very, very accurate because your future is determined by your habit. But if you create a new habit, okay, for example, someone says, hey, they are going to transmit the 5 precepts. Do you want to take it? And everything in you tells you, no, you're not ready. I'm not ready. I don't want to be vegetarian. I need more time, blah, 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 blah. But then all you need is one thought that says, okay, yeah, if I don't do it now, I may not do it. And then you take it. So you go against your nature and you take the 5 precepts. And then you start creating a new habit. All right, that's what it means. Okay, when you create a new habit like that, then the position of the planets no longer reflect. I mean, I can't say for sure 100%, but you begin to chart your own course. Let's put it this way. All right. Okay. Now, some celestial bodies are terrible and ugly, some are elegant and beautiful to behold. During the change of dynasties in China, a comet appeared in the world, but it wasn't a comet like what you think. Shiva says it was a child wearing a red nightshirt. It went about teaching children to sing. When all the children started singing, the country would come to an end. So it was that whenever the government was about to change hands and the new emperor was about to appear, this evil star would appear in the world. All right. Shiva says, weird happenings refer to things not ordinarily seen. Suddenly, some special circumstances arises that is totally out of the ordinary and always inauspicious. Happenings means that things would change and be out of balance and not proper. And in the sutra it says, but they will all be eradicated, all inauspicious events, calamities, and disasters, wherever there is the mantra, the Surangama Mantra. Shiva says, in every country where the Surangama Sutra is known, that's what happens. And it says the boundaries will be secured for 12 yojanas round. And Shiva says you secure the boundaries by reciting the mantra in a certain place. Sometimes when you go around, there is something called, when you go to a temple, before a session of Fa Hui, there is something called purifying the boundaries. And in this, we will usually recite the the Great Compassion mantra and walk around the a place. Okay. So how do you, we call it securing the boundaries. So how do you do that? Shiva says, for instance, one recites the Surangama mantra while facing north, then east, then south, then west. In every direction that one faces while reciting, the boundaries are secured for a distance of 12 yojana. You will see this in when we do the Great Compassion Repentance, and they recite the Great Compassion mantra. And every time the mantra is finished, one mantra is finished, they turn 90 degrees. to the right, and then they recite the mantra. And then when the mantra is finished, they turn 90 degrees to the right again, and then they recite the mantra. So now you know why. Then a small yojana is 40 Chinese miles, which is 13 English miles. 12 yojanas here refers to great yojanas, or a total of 96 Chinese miles or 32 English miles. So that's a long distance. For that distance all around, a far distance, sorry. For that distance all around, the boundaries are secured. Within that range, the demons and weird creatures and ghosts are not permitted to cause accidents or catastrophes. So there's a law in the spirit world. They are not permitted to act up and make trouble. Beyond the 36 miles, it is a different matter, but within them, no evil calamity or misfortune will ever enter in. Thus, whenever the Surangama Mantra is found, everyone in the area benefits. In the area where the boundaries are secured, no catastrophe, calamity, accident, or misfortune will be found. Okay, when you build a temple, that's what you're supposed to do. Yeah, you secure the four corners of the temple to create a pure boundary. Okay, all right. Now moving on. Let me see. Okay, I thought this was interesting. This is Shufu saying that to study Buddhism, one has to hold the precepts. And then Shufu says, one can tell whether or not people hold the precepts by looking at whether or not I'm both laughing and coughing, at whether or not they cry, whether they're emotional, and whether they lose their tempers. No matter how long we have studied Buddhism and how many sutras from the three treasuries and 12 divisions of the Buddhist canon we have studied, the first thing we must do is control our emotions. Controlling our emotions just means holding the precepts. So now you know what the precepts are meant to elicit. That means anger, when you see, how you say, when you see the dark side of people, when you see faults in people, when you notice their bad behavior, then you know you're not holding the precepts well. When you want to criticize someone, then you know you're not holding the precepts well. Why? Because you're looking outside. You're not looking at yourself. You can't even see your own fault when you criticize or you look down on people or you criticize people. It's actually very ugly, and you don't see that. Why? Because the blame is on the other person, and you're not reflecting inside. Precepts are meant to act as a mirror to our thoughts, our action, and our speech. So if you are mindful of the precepts, constantly your mind is looking inwards instead of looking outwards. All right. So she was saying, controlling our emotion is just holding the precepts. If you hold the precepts, you will not cry. People who don't uphold the precepts cry often. Okay, it doesn't mean that if you cry, it means you're not holding the precepts. Okay, it just means that you still have emotion. But Shifu is talking about people who don't understand what it means to hold the precepts. Okay, but ultimately, if you hold the precepts well, then you can control your emotions. Okay. Those who hold the precepts refrain from all evil and practice all good. Crying is one of the evils committed by the body. It's like the weapons wielded by bandits, it can kill, and it's a very inauspicious sign. If you hold the precepts, you won't cry all the time. One can, wait, let me see. Okay, I think that's a repeat. Okay, I'm going to skip that whole sentence, the second paragraph, and read the middle part. It says, if you understand the precepts, you will be able to deeply penetrate the Buddha Dharma in its entirety. Buddhist studies, or rather Buddhist path, can be broken into what's known as the three trainings, trisiksa in Sanskrit. It is precepts, samadhi, and wisdom. So precepts is the foundation of your practice. And from precepts, when your mind is still, you can enter samadhi or concentration. And because you can enter concentration, you can uncover your wisdom. So Shufu says, let me see, if you do not understand the precepts, you, oh my cough is bad today. You'll just be like a cloud in the sky, drifting here and there without any roots on or foundation. As students of the Buddha Dharma, we will find that all sutras teach people to hold the precepts, and none teach people to assume an affected manner, to do things to excess, or to fight or argue. If you truly hold the precepts, what is there to fight about? What is there to argue about? If you don't place importance on the precepts, then you are only heading toward the hells, and won't be able to get out. You can fool others, but you can't fool yourself. And if you truly hold the precepts, then first of all, you will not cry. Does that mean you'll always be laughing? Shiva says no. So I told you before, don't let your knees shake when sitting. You know, some people, when they sit, the knees will move up and down. The leg cannot be still. There's no deportment. The leg is always vibrating. Don't whirl your skirt while standing. Don't laugh hysterically when you're happy. And don't yell or raise your voice when you're angry. So all this takes a lot of self-control. As is said, we should think before speaking, laugh only when there is cause for joy, and make sure it is proper before we take something. We should always be considerate of others and not just think of ourselves. When we study Buddhism, the first thing we must do is hold the precepts. Why is a person able to refrain from crying and laughing? Okay, because he or she has samadhi. That means you have mindfulness and awareness and concentration, all these three combined. People who lack samadhi easily cry and laugh. Why? Because you just fall after your emotions. If you have samadhi, you will have wisdom. If you lack samadhi, this means you aren't holding the precepts. And then even if you say you have wisdom, it's useless. Therefore, in studying Buddhism, we must emphasize the observance of precepts. Now, Shufu explains, he says, holding the precepts means watching for and correcting your own mistakes at all times, not minding others' mistakes, and not correcting your own. That would be like doing other people's laundry. Shufu also has this saying, he says, take other people's faults just as your own. So when we see someone doing something we may not approve of, then we remind ourselves, say, do I behave like that too? You know, sometimes it's very easy to criticize others, but we are totally oblivious that we do the same thing. But other people can see, right? So Shufu says, just take others' faults as your own. So it's a win-win. If we do it, if we notice someone doing something we don't approve and we stop ourselves from doing it, then we correct ourselves. And if we don't have that habit, or if we don't have that trait, then we prevent ourselves from developing it. So it's a win-win situation. So Shufu says, I've said these things to you today out of earnest concern. They are meant to help you leave suffering and attain happiness and end birth and death. If you understand the spirit of my words, then you will all be able to carry on. If you do not understand, then I cannot save you. Even if Shakyamuni Buddha himself came, he probably couldn't save you if you are too confused by your emotions. So Shufu says he's spoken very honestly, and we all should listen earnestly, and don't try to be too clever like a ghost. That means don't try to act like your own lawyer and say, no, I don't do that. You do that. I don't do that. Yeah, don't. That's what our ego tends to do to us. Okay, we have. Oh my. Let me see what's next. Okay, the next what I have is this: the 8 precepts and how that relates to um, disasters and ill portents. But I think I will keep it for next week because there's maybe 8 or 10 slides that I won't be able to finish without going over time. So as usual, I'm going to ask if anyone has any reflections or anything you want to share or any questions you want to ask.
Faster, if let's say if you have the uh, empathy for people who are less uh, fortunate, then is it uh, uh, wrong?
Is it okay? Let me see if I understand your question. You say that if we have empathy for people who are less fortunate, say maybe they're suffering, is it wrong to have empathy for them? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I think most people view empathy as a good thing. I think it goes along with the saying, put yourself in others' shoes so that you understand what they're going through. You can relate or try to relate to them because from empathy, usually in Buddhism, we don't use the word empathy. What we use is compassion, because empathy is, okay, I'm not an expert in what empathy means. So hold on. Before I say something too stupid, let me look up what is the definition of empathy. Okay. All right. Dictionary says empathy is the action of understanding, being aware of, being sensitive to, and vicariously experiencing the feelings, thoughts, and experience of another person. Randy, is that what you, how you understood the word empathy, or do you
Uh,
mean something else?
yeah, this is exactly the meaning.
Okay, okay. So empathy is actually a good thing, okay, because it makes you, like for example, in Islam, why do they fast, the fasting month? Okay, one of the reasons is to make them understand the suffering undergone by poor people. I don't think it's the only reason, but that's one of the reasons. That's why during the Ramadan month, they also distribute food to poor people. Okay, so that's a very good example of empathy. So they for 1 month they have to undergo discomfort, so they understand how life is like for people who are less fortunate. So what this means is that hopefully after Ramadan, whenever they meet poor people, they are less, how to say, cold, less callous towards them, and maybe their heart expands a bit more. All right. In Buddhism, uh, um, we usually don't talk about empathy. We speak of compassion. So, what is compassion? Compassion arises when you care for a person's happiness. All right. So, I think that's the difference between empathy and compassion. Empathy is just understanding or relating that someone is undergoing suffering. So, for example, when you read about the starvation in Gaza or like in Philippines, they just had one typhoon and they're going to experience another typhoon. People are dying, all their possessions are gone, even their house, totally gone. Can you imagine tomorrow, everything that you have, except the clothes that you're wearing, are gone? Okay. You don't even have shelter, no food, nothing. So the difference between how, what was I talking about? I got distracted by my own example. Anyway, okay, when you have loving kindness for someone, which means that you care whether they're happy or not. All right. When they're not happy, when they undergo suffering, compassion arises. So you have a wish to elevate them, remove their suffering. Okay, now I understand. Now I remember what I was talking about when it comes to the example of the typhoon and all that. When we read about misfortune happening to people that are not connected to us, we sometimes feel bad, We feel like starvation. People are starving. It does affect us. It does make us feel sad. But when it's time to eat, they don't occupy any space in our minds anymore. We forget about them. As we eat, I'm not saying everyone, but usually the feelings that we have when we recognize our suffering do not elicit a transformation or a call to action in us. We may donate some money, but maybe that's it. Of course, for some people, they do take things very seriously, and they do they do a great deal. But that would become the side of compassion. So to me, empathy is more like you recognize their suffering, and it comes and goes. Whereas compassion arises from a wish for the person to be happy first. So that's loving kindness. Then when that object of your loving kindness, that person, they undergo suffering, compassion naturally arises. Without loving kindness, it is not compassion. Then when compassion arises, there is a feel that you feel like you want to do something. So the difference between bodhisattvas and us is that bodhisattvas have maha compassion, great compassion, maha karuna. And why is it called great compassion? Well, our loving kindness has a boundary. We can extend it to our families, to people who we are close to people we like, but we find it very difficult to extend loving kindness to our enemies, for example, sometimes even to our neighbors or to certain family members. So there are boundaries to our loving kindness. Our heart isn't big enough to encompass everyone in our loving kindness. So when some of these people get suffering, undergo suffering, to us it doesn't make any difference to us. Whereas for a bodhisattva with great compassion, there's no boundaries, there's no limit to their compassion. Everyone they treat equally. Okay, so that's one aspect of great compassion. The second aspect is the agency, which is they see themselves as being responsible to alleviate your suffering. They will do whatever they can do, given the condition, circumstances, and to remove that suffering from you. Whereas for us, we are either limited by our lack of wisdom, abilities, money, all those things. But for the bodhisattva, they don't let anything stand in their way. They're always trying to remove your suffering. Okay, so there's a difference between great compassion and our compassion. So I think for me, in empathy means being able to relate, but compassion there's kind of like there's a transformation happening that you want to do something about it. Okay, I'm not sure if you all agree. If you all don't agree or you have other ideas, anyone want to share? Because I might be wrong. Difference between empathy and yes, Ellen.
Hey, Pastor. Sorry for my ignorance. If I can may just add on to the question, right? Sometimes when you help people, right, they show gratitude. You have a sense of wanting and motivation and encouragement to want to help them more. But sometimes if they don't show gratitude, and sometimes in a way they're quite disrespectful, we kind of unmotivated to help them. In that scenario, does it show that we are not compassionate? Or compassion must go beyond also helping those ungrateful people?
Well, there is a few, I think there are a few components involved. One is expectations. Usually when we help people, it is not unconditional. So when we help, our happiness hinges on how people react. Like sometimes when I walk past a door, I open the door and I hold the door for the person behind me. And then if they act like it's my job to hold the door for them, I can see myself getting upset. Like, hey, you're supposed to say thank you, because I'm trying to be a polite, good person holding the door for you and you don't show any gratitude. So that's doing things with expectations. It's conditional. And I think we all know that when that happens, then our satisfaction or our happiness is controlled by them. We're not in control. Yeah. We only if they show gratitude or they smile or they acknowledge, then we can tell ourselves, oh, I did a good deed today. If not, then we say, oh, you ungrateful person, no manners. Yeah. So it's not a good strategy. So that's one aspect. Bodhisattvas, however, are unconditional. So if you read the Pure Contact, the Universal Door chapter, the Pumen Pin from the Lotus Sutra, Kuan Yin helps you no matter if Kuan Yin has to appear in the form of a Brahma god, in the form of an elder, in the form of a monk, in the form of a young maiden or young boy or whatever it is, okay, Kuan Yin will take that form to help you. In other words, Kuan Yin doesn't care if you're Hindu, Islam, Buddhist, or what, okay? Kuan Yin doesn't care, doesn't care. Kuan Yin, okay, whether you're vegetarian or not, whether you have taken precepts or not, whether you have taken refuge or not, whether you're Buddhist or not, it does not stand, Kuan Yin will not see you as any lesser. It will not affect whether she helps you or not. That's unconditional. Okay. And she's not going to wait for you to say thank you. Why? Because her aim is just to help you become a better person. And even if you don't become a better person, Kuan Yin say, okay, now mind, next time. Maybe in your next life or 10 lifetimes from now or koti, nayutas of kotis from now, you can change. Okay, so it's unconditional. Okay, so that's one aspect. The second aspect is, Alan, can you repeat your question again?
Faster, yes. So basically, sometimes if I help people who show gratitude, something it motivates to help more. But in cases where if they don't show gratitude or sometimes to a certain extent
Okay.
disrespect,
I got it now. I got it now. Okay. The second aspect is our level of loving kindness, because loving kindness begins with loving kindness for oneself. That means your happiness comes from yourself. When you are able to generate your own happiness through your own virtues, that means you recognize the goodness in yourself, your inner well-being becomes very strong. That means your confidence in who you are becomes very strong, and it is not affected by how people treat you. Okay, so that means you don't look to outside for validation of who you are, for love, for acceptance. Why? Because all that comes from within. So before we can be happy for others, first we must be happy for ourselves. And this is very obvious when it comes to monks, because monks have nothing. Okay, we don't have anything to fall back on. No career, no fame, no, we just have our practice. So the Buddha taught monks loving kindness to deal with all kinds of circumstances. Even the Buddha says there's a sutra called the simile of the saw. I'm not sure if that's the name of the sutra, but in that sutra, there is a simile or the metaphor of the saw. The Buddha says, monks, even if someone were to saw you limb from limb, okay? That means someone take a knife or a saw, and start sawing off your hand, start sawing off your feet. It says, if you give rise to anger or hatred, you are not my disciple. Instead, you should develop loving kindness. And we have an actual story, Shakyamuni Buddha. He was known, Shufu says he was known as the patient immortal. He was practicing meditation, and then the king came to the forest to hunt. And as the king was hunting, his concubines found the meditator, and then they started talking to him, and he started teaching them the Dharma. And then the king saw that his concubines really liked this meditator, and he got very jealous. So he asked the meditator. So you see, the king not happy with himself, no confidence in himself. So he felt threatened just because his concubines were paying attention to another man. See how fragile his ego is? So he challenged the meditator, was Shakyamuni Buddha in his past life. He said, "What are you doing here?" And he said, "Oh, I'm practicing patience." Then the king challenged him. He said, "If you're truly practicing patience, then whatever I do to you, you will not get angry." I can't remember the details of the story, but the meditator said, "Yes." So the king said, "Even if I were to chop off your nose, you won't get angry?" He said, "Yes." So that's what the king did. He chopped off his nose, I think chop off his ears, then chop off his hands and feet. And yet the meditator did not get upset. And I think white blood started flowing out, like what's that? There's that movie Alien. Yeah, Alien, the android, when he was attacked by the alien, his blood wasn't red. Actually, it's technically not his blood. He's like android. He was a robot. So white, it was white in color, like that. And then the king became scared. And and then I can't remember the details of the story. I have to find out. And then the patient immortal, according to Shufu, made a declaration of truth. Basically, he said that if I did not, if I'm telling the truth that I did not give rise to a single thought of anger to you, then all his limbs will grow back, and it did. And so that converted the king. And I think the king became, okay, who knows this story? I think the king became the first person that the Buddha crossed over, right? Any of you know this story? Is Alec there? Alec, do you know this story?
is Chao Chen Lu.
So I got it right? Did I get, or at
Yeah.
least some of the details? Okay, yeah. So when Shakyamuni Buddha, his first 5 disciples, the first one that became an arhat was this king
Yes.
that chopped off and the Buddha made a vow as a patient immortal. He says, when I become a Buddha, you'll be the first person I cross over, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, good. I'm a bad storyteller, but at least my facts are somewhat correct. Okay, so does that help you, Alan?
Yes, Master. Thank you.
So if you're easily affected by other people, whether we do good for them or not, it's because our own practice is not strong enough. So we lack confidence in ourselves. So we look to them for validation. So there's a difference between loving kindness and emotional love. Emotional love, you're always depending on other people to feel, so that we feel good about ourselves. Other people's opinions, other people's return of the affections that we give to them. Whereas loving kindness gives us the foundation to be and the strength to be able to be who we are. I mean, you must have good wholesome virtues in the first place. If not, where do you get your happiness from? Or but it gives us that foundation to be for our well-being, to be strong. All right. Now let's transfer merit. Okay, I'm gonna put my palms together. Okay, let me see. Yume says, only read about this in Diamond Sutra where the Buddha mentioned no self, else there be anger. Yeah, if you can find it, please share that passage, Yume. Thank you. Okay. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, I'm going to do 3 bows to the Buddha, but just let me change my sound setting to this. Okay, all right. 3 bows to the Buddha. Second bow. Third bow. Bowing respect to the Rebel Master. Second bow. Third bow. Okay, everyone, Amitabha. Thank you all for joining, and we'll see you all next week.